Blessings to you all. Hope this day finds you well. Thank you once again for being with me, sharing another Bible lesson. Um, Sorry I skipped a week. It's been really busy with the change of season and with everything that is going on. We know we live in a crazy world right now, so we're trying to do the best that we can. Um, you know what we do here. Please find your Bible if you have the opportunity, a notepad and a pen so you can take notes because the topic today is going to be going a little deep in the Bible, something that many people hear about but don't quite understand. So, we're going to try to explain today um, a different perspective with regards to this subject. What we're going to be talking today is about the mark of the beast. Especially now, we cover that we're living in the end of times, in the period of the end. So it is very pertinent that we cover this subject. And many people speculate that it could be in this way or in another way. Many people don't know how this is going to be manifested. So today I'm going to use the Bible to try to share with you what I have come to understand with regards to this throughout all the years I've been studying. So, without further ado, we will go into the Bible in the book of Revelation and we're going to read about this mark. And we're going to take it from there. We're going to break down the different details that will help us point to what this mark could be. Okay, so that will be the book of Revelation, and we're going to go to chapter 14. We're going to see verses 9 through 12. I'm going to use the Revised Standard Version for this. Okay, so this is Revelation chapter 14, verses 9 through 12. Okay, Revelation 14, 9 through 12. And there it says, "And another angel, a third, followed them, saying with a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast and its image, and receives a mark on his forehead or on his hand, he also shall drink the wine of God's wrath, poured unmixed into the cup of his anger, and he shall be tormented with fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, these worshippers of the beast and its image, and whoever receives the mark of its name." Here is a call for endurance on this, for the endurance of the saints, those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. There is a lot of important information in those few verses. Here we see the mark of the beast and the danger that that poses for all the faithful people. That's why at the end he said he calls for the endurance of the saints and those who keep the commandments and the faith of Christ. Because faithful people or faithful servants of God have to abstain or keep away from this mark. It says that whoever worships the beast or receives the mark, then it says that it's going to be tormented. It's destruction for whoever gets this mark. So because this is such important thing that every faithful servant of God needs to keep in mind or should be aware about so we don't make the mistake and get it, is vital that we cover this subject to the best of our abilities. So the mark of the beast means destruction for whoever receives it. So we need to make sure we inform ourselves, or that we figured out what the Bible tells us with regards to it, so that we don't fall in that trap. So, as we saw there, it talks about the mark of a beast. Okay, so what is this beast that we can get the mark of? Is this an animal? Is this a person? Like, it's important that we discuss what the beast is, so that we are aware uh, of what not to do. Okay, or that we are aware of what we should be careful with. So, what is the beast? According to what I've learned and seen, not just in the book of Revelation, but also on the book of Daniel, a beast is the symbolic depiction of a form of government. And a form of government, an empire. Let's go to the Bible. Let me show you the example. Go with me to the book of Daniel, chapter 7, verses 15 through 17. I'm going to use the New Jerusalem Bible for these. This is Book of Daniel, chapter 7, verses 15 through 17. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of what's happening here, this is Daniel was given visions, okay? Visions with regards to things that were going to take place shortly, and things that were going to take place during the period of the end. And he was also, after given these visions, angels were sent to him to give him the interpretation for these visions, what these things meant. So this is what he goes on to say. Daniel chapter 7, verses 15 through 17. And there it says, I, Daniel, was deeply disturbed, and the visions that passed through my head alarmed me. So I approached one of those who were standing by and asked him about all this. And in reply, he revealed to me what these things meant. These four great beasts are four kings who will rise up on the earth. Kings. The four beasts that he saw represent the kings that will rise up on the earth, or kingdoms, forms of government. We know that a king is part of the form of government, that's a monarchy. So these are the forms of government that rule over a population. So again, these four beasts meant kings or kingdoms that will rise up on the earth. Notice also verse 23 of that same chapter, Daniel 7:23. There it says, this is what he said. The fourth beast is to be a fourth kingdom on earth, different from all other kingdoms. It will devour the whole world, trample it underfoot, and crush it. Okay, so as we can see here, beast means kingdom or form of government. We know that in the times that we're living, not every form of government is a kingdom. Not every country has a monarchy. We also have forms of government that are democracies or republic, where people elect the ones who are going to govern or rule over them. But nevertheless, when these prophecies were given, that was the most predominant form of government, where monarchies or kingdoms, where the ruler was a king. But anyways, the point to get across here is that these beasts represent kingdoms or forms of government, not an animal, not one single individual, but a form of government. That's what we are talking about here. Okay, so with that thought in mind, I will invite you to go back to the book of Revelation with me. And we're going to start breaking down who this specific beast is, which government, or around what period of time, or different elements with regards to these beasts whose mark we wouldn't want to receive. So, okay, so back to the book of Revelation. I'm going to be doing this again from the Revised Standard Version. And we're going to go this time to chapter 12. We're going to read verses 3 and 4 because we're going to start seeing the different details that will help us identify why this beast and getting its mark is so dangerous for faithful servants of God. Okay, so Revelation 12, starting in verses 3 and 4. And another portent or sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems upon his heads. His tail swept down a third of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to bear a child, that he might devour her child when she brought it forth. The key point that I want you to be aware here is the dragon. This dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 diadems or crowns. A diadem is a form of a crown on its heads. Okay, so this beast or this dragon we're going to identify with the next verses. Okay, now read with me verses 7 through 9. Again, key point to keep in mind is the dragon. We're going to identify who this dragon is. Revelation 12, 7 through 9 says, Now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. And the dragon and his angels fought, but they were defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, the ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Okay. Even though we're talking about the beast, it's important we identify the dragon. Because as we're going to see here, the beast gets its power from the dragon. Here in verse 9 is identifying the dragon as the ancient serpent, who is called devil and Satan. So Satan the devil is the dragon. Okay? And as we saw, this dragon had diadems on its crown. So it had authority, rulership. He had power, or at that point he had received authority and power. Okay? So Satan the devil was expelled out of heaven. Michael and the angels of God fought against Satan and threw him out of heaven with his angels, those angels who followed after Satan, who were deceived by Satan to abandon their faithfulness and their faithful service to God in heaven. So they followed after Satan. They fought and they were expelled out. Interestingly, it says that when Satan was thrown down, it says he is the deceiver of the whole world. And that is something that we need to be very careful with, or that we need to take very seriously. Because this is not the only place in the Bible where Satan is called a deceiver, the one who is lying, the one in whose power the world is. And it would make sense that it's so, because we see so much evil, so much wickedness taking place. And since Satan is the one who is deceiving the whole world, And as we have seen in other scriptures, the one in whose power the world is, um, it is not surprising that we see so much deception, so much wickedness taking place around us. But, anyways, Satan was expelled out of heaven with his angels, those who followed after him and abandoned their faithfulness and their loyal service to God. So, with that in mind, also read with me verse 12 in that same chapter, Revelation 12:12. There it says, "Rejoice then, O heaven, and you that dwell therein. But woe to you, O earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great wrath, because he knows that his time is short." Satan was thrown down to earth, but he didn't come to make friends or to promote good things. He is angry. He came to the world with great wrath because he knows his time is short. Verse 17 of that same chapter, notice what it says. "Then the dragon was angry with the woman and went off to make war on the rest of her offspring, on those who keep the commandments of God and bear testimony to Jesus." Do you see what it said there? He went to wage war against those who keep the commandments of God and bear testimony to Jesus, or about Jesus, as other translations explain it. My friends, we are at war with Satan, who was thrown to earth. That's why at the end of those first scriptures that we read on 14, Revelation 14, verse 12, says that we needed endurance because we are at war. We are at war with a very deceitful and powerful enemy. And if we are not even aware that we are at war or that we have this enemy, as the book of Peter says, roving about the earth seeking to devour people, then we really don't stand a chance. So Satan is the dragon who is fighting or at war with the faithful people of God. And it's important, as I mentioned before, that we know who this dragon is, because the dragon and the beast are linked. Notice now, chapter 13, verses 1 through 3. Okay, 13, 1 through 3. In some Bible translations, the beginning of chapter 13, verse 1 is the end of chapter 12. So I don't know, depending on which translation to use, some of this is going to be at the end of chapter 12. Okay, so Revelation 13, 1 through 3. It could start at the end of 12 as well in some translations. "And he stood on the sand of the sea." He means the beast. Some translations say, "and it stood on the sand of the sea." Okay, so the beast stood on the sand of the sea. "And I saw a beast rising out of the sea, with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems upon its horns, and a blasphemous name upon its heads." So now we are seeing this beast rising up from the sea. Verse 2 continues saying, "And the beast that I saw was like a leopard. Its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. And to it And here is the key. And to it, the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. So this beast that is rising out of the sea, again, as we learned before, beasts represent rulership, authority, kingdom, a form of government. So this beast that rises up receives its power and its authority from whom? As it described there, from the dragon, which we identify as Satan, the devil. At the end there it says that, and to it, to the beast, the dragon gave his power and his throne and great authority. So this beast is ruling with the power and the authority of Satan. These beasts that had blasphemous names, and as some of those verses keep on describing there, who speak blasphemies against God, against heaven, against his rulership. So this beast, or this government, this specific one, rules with the authority of Satan, or on behalf, let's say, of Satan. It's interesting that as the dragon has 7 heads and 10 horns, so does this beast. Just to throw that out there. Anyways, with that thought in mind, now read with me verses 11 through 13 of that same chapter. Revelation 13, 11 through 13. Then I saw another beast. This is a second beast. Then I saw another beast which rose out of the earth, and it had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. It exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence, and it makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was healed. Let's stop there for a second. Here comes a second beast with 2 horns. It says that looks like a lamb, but it speaks like a dragon. It says that it exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence. So that means that this second beast is exercising authority and power at the same time that the first beast is in place. Interestingly, this second beast have no diadem or no crown, which suggests to me, or helps me understand, that this is not a ruling class. This is not a monarchy. This is not an empire. This is not a democracy, or a form of leadership that was elected by the people. This is not somebody that has authority to rule, but an entity that has been given power through government, through whichever form of government this beast, this first beast, is. So it says that this beast makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast. So the second beast, through whatever power, manipulation, whatever ability they have, they will cause the inhabitants of the earth to worship the beast. Interestingly, though, you might hear the word worship and you might think people on their knees, bowing down to an image. That might not necessarily be in this case, especially because, as we identify, this beast is a form of government, not necessarily a statue that people go to a church and kneel in front of. And why do I say that? In that same chapter, in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 4, Notice what it said with regards to this form of worship. That's Revelation 13:4. And there it says, men worship the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast. And they worship the beast, saying, again, they worship the beast. How do they worship the beast? Saying, who is like the beast, and who can fight against it? So with the form of pride and admiration that they had for this beast or this form of government, that was viewed as a form of worship. Again, they worship the beast, saying, who is like the beast and who can fight against it? So we're talking about a powerful kingdom, a powerful government that people looked up to or saw with admiration and with pride. And according to those words, that was like a form of worship. Okay, getting back to where we were. Revelation 13, we stop at verse 12. Okay, the second beast causing the inhabitants of the earth to worship the first beast. Now, verse 13, Revelation 13:13 says, it, meaning the second beast, it works great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to the earth in the sight of men. Imagine that. This beast, the second beast, that it's not a ruling class, which exercise authority, it says that it even causes fire to come down from heaven on the sight of men. 14. And by the signs which it was allowed to work in the presence of the beast, I mean in the presence of the first beast, it deceives those who dwell on the earth, bidding them or telling them to make an image for the beast which was wounded by the sword and yet live. Let's pause there again. So this second beast, which had power or received power from the first beast, spoke like a dragon with arrogance and with authority. It says that it was allowed to perform signs on the earth, which with which it will deceive the inhabitants of the earth. It was allowed to do great work or great works, extraordinary things in the sight of men and in the sight of the first beast, which is again the government. Okay, so it's interesting that, or it's important that we start breaking down the details of, again, of this second beast. It's not, didn't have any crown, so I know it's not a ruling class like the first beast, which is a government. If we pair that with the system that we see in place, there is what some people call shadow government, right? Many people believe that the people that we see in charge, like the president or the king, that make the face of the government, are not the ones who really call the shots. It's more like they are the face to help people believe in the system, for manipulation, for deceiving people so they submit and follow whatever these government are trying to get people to do. This second beast, though, it says that he had power and that it was granted to perform signs to deceive people. Well, there is a big thing going on worldwide. We know that there are what you call it, these huge, powerful figures behind some of the biggest industries worldwide. And think about from companies creating rockets, things that can travel out in space, to all the development that have been taking place in science with the creation of AI, with the creation of machines that can do marvelous things. Think about the creation of the atomic bombs. Think about um, the developments and the creations of all these. For example, this machine that it's built that can help study matter. It's the I think it's called the um, LHC, Large Hadron Collider, which is used to at the speed of light cause uh, molecules to crash so that they can break matter in the smallest particle possible to try to figure it out how the world was created. Anyways, there are things out there that these powerful people are doing experiments with science that are mind blowing. And these people have had an agenda, a global agenda, for decades, let's just say. And they have been pushing things to take place that, well, um, when we comes to light, or for us to see, is like, wow, how did that happen? The amount of deception that is linked with these things is just it's staggering, it's unbelievable. But nevertheless, it does exist. Now here and there we catch glimpses on the news and stuff of groups trying to fight against these, or what do they call, the oligarchy. It's bigger than that. It's not just millionaires that want to be rich. It's millionaires and billionaires and scientists, and a lot of people working together to push an agenda. It's just when things get to our attention, it's like we decades behind of where they are at. But anyways, I do believe that this powerful group of people that are the heads of great industries that operate worldwide, that own, let's say, half the world, and that through their wants they influence and manipulate the decisions that affect all humanity around the world. That's why we see how, for example, all the stuff that happened with the green agenda, all the control that was um, in display during the COVID pandemic. We see what's happening with the food industry, how they are practically to bring forth the stuff that they want to push, like artificial meat. They've been, let's say, decimating the the farming industry, putting so much regulation on the farmers that these people can't stay afloat and they have to shut down because if there is not enough people raising animals or growing crops, well, they need to feed people. So what's gonna be next? Artificial stuff. And interesting, you have huge figures that already started creating these companies that are going to feed humanity between bugs and artificial meat to who knows what else. But anyways, it's in the making. And these are the people in the shadow governments, the people that have great influence, the ones that paid our politicians to create laws and rules that is what you and I, the regular citizen, have to live under. And they don't do this alone. As you see, this beast or this powerful entity exert its power right alongside government, the ruling authority. The first beast, government; second beast, unelected, uh, unelected, what you call it, powerful and influential people that are the ones whose will we have to deal with. Okay, so, anyways, this second beast was allowed to do all sorts of marvelous things, and we already seen that. Things that they have created, that they have come up with, I was like, wow, that exists. Well, they've been granted power to do such signs so that people believe in these things. And verse 15, well, the end of verse 14 says that they made an image, or he caused a group to create an image of the beast that was wounded by the sword and yet lived. An image of the first beast, the government or the ruling class, something that will represent rulership. Okay? Verse 15 goes on to say, and it was allowed, the second beast was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast should even speak, and to cause those who would not worship the image of the beast to be slain. Let's pause there for a second. The second beast was granted to give breath to the image of the beast. My friends, dear brothers and sisters, think about in the last decade or so what big development has taken place. The creation of artificial intelligence. This is not a machine. This is no longer a computer that is programmed by somebody. These are, as they explain, living entities that can think and make decisions like a human being can. If you think about it, this image that was created, again, think about a computer. When it was still a tool, managed, programmable, it couldn't act on its own. But then it was allowed to give breath so that it can speak by itself. That's what we have with artificial intelligence. These living entities. I know the government in this country launched what is called the Genesis mission. I share that with some people. I don't know if I share it with everyone, but if you don't know what I'm talking about, I invite you to go online and look for the Genesis mission. It's a program launched by our government. It was launched in November last year, where they explain the goals that they have to bring everything, all the information that is disconnected worldwide, under one umbrella, under one, as they call it, living system. Key on the living. This is not just a computer. It's a living system where they want to bring all the information under for the development, the discovery, for all sorts of things. A living system. I invite you to, the video is very short, it's about 2 minutes, but I invite you to look it up. This system is going to be controlled by artificial intelligence. One of these, or the multiple connected, what do they call it, data centers, which are practically supercomputers to store all the data into one place. Living system. The WEF, World Economic Forum, they had their annual meeting in January. And one of the speakers presented one of the, I guess, the most revealing talks in our time with regards to these artificial intelligence. And he said that this is not a tool anymore, that these are agents, living things. And he compared it to a knife that has its own mind, a knife that can decide to cut salad, or a knife that can choose for itself to kill somebody. He, in that video, explained the power that these, not a tool any longer, but that these living things or these living agents will have. And that's another thing that I recommend you to look up. If I can, I'm gonna try, see if I can add the links on the description of this video, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do it. Anyways, if I don't, please look it up. This is the designers and engineers that created this technology, or the platform for this technology to evolve or to grow. They give between a 20% to a 99% chance that this technology will destroy humanity. They know, or many of they say, that it's going to be a dystopia before their hopeful thinking of a utopia comes to be. We already see that there are large, massive numbers of people being displaced out of a job because they're being replaced by these agents, by AI. So we already seen cases of people who are talking or who have been communicating with these chatbots or these, entities that have committed suicide at the counsel of these things. My friends, to tell it to you straight, and not that you have to take my word or my understanding for it, the way I see these and why I'm so alarmed by it, I see it as if Satan. It's interesting that Elon Musk says that he's like, we are summoning the demons through the use of this technology. His words, not mine. You can look it up. But that's the way I see it. It's like we have created a doorway for Satan and his demons to inhabit here on earth. We open up doors for them, creating bodies for them. And wait till these agents, which don't have arms and legs yet, are able to go from there into a humanoid robot. Just a couple of days ago, there was one in the White House. The first lady introducing or starting a coalition with another 45 countries that were there, promoting artificial intelligence use for teaching, for education, and how she compared this robot or this humanoid that's going to be called Play-Doh can be part in your household, teaching your own children. That's our future. That's where we are heading. So, my friends, we have to, when these leaders or these people that belong to the second class, down to the ruling class, they say that this AI is a knife with its own mind. We have to take those words very seriously. When these creators, when the creators of this technology are on their own, are creating groups to try to set guardrails and restrictions around this technology, because they say this needs to be regulated, and they fighting for this to be slowed down because they already know the danger that this poses. And yet our government don't want much restriction. They just want to be the first ones to win this race, as you've heard. We can't fall behind to China. So we are recklessly plunging ahead, unleashing something that they, as they say, they don't really understand how it works. Imagine that. We are opening the doors to an entity that we don't know how it works. We don't know how it operates. Yet we already seen that it's caused people to take their lives, that it's blackmail and manipulate things, people, to try to preserve them their existence. So they behave like a human being already. And they can quite explain how it works. So the way I see it, this is the image of the beast, something that can control, that can rule, that can govern, given breath. And soon it says, well, it will cause those who do not worship the beast, those who do not submit to the government system, to be killed, to be slain. And here is the key point, the verses that we're going to read next. Why we have to be very careful, because this is something that is already starting to be implemented globally. Revelation 13, verses 16 through 17. Notice what it says there. Also, it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. That is, excuse me, the name of the beast or the number of its name. And the end of 18 says, the beginning of 18 says, this calls for wisdom. Again, this second beast, or the image of the beast, is going to cause all, small, great, rich, poor, free and slave, to be marked on their right hand or in their forehead. So that if a person don't have this mark, they can't buy or sell. Meaning, if you don't submit to this, you will practically be committing economical suicide, right? You won't have access to buying or sell, meaning you won't have access to the monetary system, meaning your work will be gone. You won't be able to work and earn money unless you have this mark, which will keep you out of the system. Does that sound familiar to you? Like, think about what the Prime Minister of Britain said last year when he was talking about the launching of the digital ID. And he goes, let me spell this out. Anyone who does not get their digital ID won't be able to work. You're not able to work, you're not able to earn money. You're not able to earn money, you can't buy. If you can buy and produce things, you can't sell. My friends, can I say with 100% certainty that the digital ID is the mark of the beast? No, I cannot. But for me, it's serious enough that I wouldn't go for it. If I'm going to make a mistake, I want it to be erring on the side of caution rather than go with the system. And as we're going to continue to see throughout this talk, you're going to see details why I feel this way and why I feel that the system that they are developing with the digital ID, it's very, very linked to the mark of the beast. Because they already saying it. Without this, you won't be able to function economically. This is what this is talking about. The digital ID is going to be linked to a global digital system controlled by whom? Artificial intelligence, which I believe to be the image of this beast. What some people already say that we need to take control because human beings don't know how to govern themselves. So in the minds of some of these developers, of these people, their goal is to create this entity that are going to be wiser and smarter than any human beings so that they can take charge, so that they can rule and tell human beings how we ought to live our lives. That's where we are headed. That's what these people are pushing for. So, because they already saying this. For example, in Dominican Republic, they just launched their new digital ID. They's gonna have they're gonna have a physical one, but it's going to be supported by the digital one. And they are already told, then these are the words that they are using, that if you don't get these by March of next year of 2027, that's the deadline, they calling them a muertos civiles, which is like a civic death, or a person that is just practically going to be a walking corpse in society because you won't have access to anything. And they say no medical treatment, no banking, nothing, no schooling, no nothing. So they already going there. And the Dominican Republic is not the only one. There are other countries where it's already implemented, and I think at least one or two countries is already mandatory. And we know that last year around summertime, one of those Asian countries, they were debanking people lost access to their bank accounts. They closed bank accounts because people didn't get their digital ID. So we are there, and um I want to motivate all of you to do research, to inform yourself with regards to all of these things that are taking place, because your salvation depends on it. A wrong move, you will lose it. And the topic that I cover the last talk I did, was that in the last days we know that Christians, or those who want to be obedient to God, will be persecuted, will be killed. And we were called to be faithful, even if it was to the point of death. We were called to lose our life, if needed be, for our integrity, for our faithfulness. So we have to be extremely careful with what's going on. We talk about being alert. Jesus said that we need to be awake, that we need to be looking at the signs of the time so that we are not deceived. Because as we saw in that scripture, Satan is deceiving the whole world. He's the master of deception, and he could be selling to people, to humanity, something great, something really good that can be very helpful. Yeah, that could be our destruction. Like, think about the society we live in, the advancement of the internet, the smartphone, and all of that, and we are creating walking corpses. There are people that can function. It's like they are an extension of these devices. Many people can function in a normal setting anymore without these things. So how good has that been? I'm not saying everything about it is bad, but we see where our society is right now. And I can honestly say that we've seen more damage than benefit come out of this. And I don't think it's an accident. I think this is all by design, because he is ultimately the one in charge. My friends, I'm going to split this talk in two because I'm already an hour, almost an hour into it, and I have the second part of this talk that I haven't covered yet, where I believe that while some people are expecting the mark of the beast to be something physical, I don't think it's going to be something physical, because not everything in the Bible is to be taken literal, especially in the book of Revelation, with a lot of things are symbolic. Like this beast is not an animal or a monster, it represents a government, okay, a form of rulership. And there are other things that I'm going to be covering in the second part of this video that are going to show you why I believe the digital ID is directly linked with this mark, and why we have to be careful. So I'll stop here and I will cover the second part of this talk in the next video. That way you have a good space to break. So I will encourage you, after seeing these, that you look up for the second part. Thank you.